Hello everyone, Turner Burner here with another video for you guys. The next class I want to go over is Paduk's old class. It's called Nomad. There aren't any changes from last operation to this operation, but I will say that since I've gotten, another operation under my belt with this class, I feel like I know more than my old video, so I'm going to talk from that perspective. But yeah, so we're going to get right into it. So it says for the Nomad class, the Eye of the Storm, the Nomad is a deadly mobile sniper class that uses fear to create space for the team. The ultimate ability is put nearby enemies into a state of fear. Enemies under fear cannot attack and will retreat. Does not affect bosses. It literally does not affect the Matriarch, Carrier, Swarm Max, Snatcher, Kestrel. I believe I named all of them. So those. Oh, and the Flock. Those are the bosses it does not affect, but it affects everything else. If you're not running any special cards associated with it, the fear is about 5 seconds, and that really can help to keep the enemies at bay if they're attacking your teammates in Horde or Escape. So fear is definitely an ability that can help your teammates, depending on how you use it. And then the passive ability is deal double damage to enemies in fear. So my channel trailer is using this Nomad class, and you can kind of see how I'm able to kill enemies faster because they are in fear. So this video will be mainly about these about using this as escape, but I will give an example horde stack, even though it will be more in theory because I haven't used Paduk in Horde, maybe very early on, but not recently. But it'll be more in theory, but mainly escape. But we'll talk about both. So Execution's Shield is one of the critical cards you really need to get to level 6. It has 100% damage resistance while executing and gaining stem. So basically, even if you're in thick venom, as long as you're chainsawing, knifing, pulling a reject battery out, you're gaining stem. And you're going to remain immortal while you're doing that. So in my recent venom run, I was able to stay alive in thick venom, not because I had venom resistance, but because I was executing grenadiers towards the end. And I'll clip all relevant gameplay for Paduk that would help you be better at this class. Because this is probably it's probably my favorite class for escape. Because I think it's one of the better ones, if not the best, because it helps your teammates while also helping yourself. So this is definitely a class you want to level up. Phase. Executing causes fear for 12 seconds to nearby enemies when you get it to level 6. So basically, these go well together because you're going to be immortal while executing, and nearby enemies, which is roughly 10 meters, will be in a state of fear after you finish the execution. So it's not, okay, I have a lot of fear or nah videos, so it's not, this fear ability isn't 100%, but it's probably closer to like 98%. It works most of the time, so you shouldn't have to worry about it per se. But yeah, once you get the execution, it'll put nearby enemies in fear. Menace, every execution charges your ultimate for 50 seconds. It is roughly a little over 3 executions, so we'll call it 4 executions to charge your ultimate as Paduk. So if you see on my Venom run, the end, a lot of my solo runs, which I'll clip a bunch of them below, you'll see that I'm able to get my ultimate very quickly because I either keep chainsawing or I keep knifing, and me doing executions allows me to stay alive. So if you get in the habit, if you're this character, of being more, it's more for people that like to play aggressive, who like to, annihilate elite drones, things of that nature, or flash and execute enemies. If you're a more aggressive player, this this class is definitely going to be for you, because I really like playing this class because you get real close to enemies while you're chainsawing, and that the execution shield allows you to stay alive. So anyway, Menace charges that ultimate, about 4 executions, and you get your ultimate back again. Concussive rounds also stacks well with these cards, because what will happen is at level 6, it can stun drones, shepherds and deadeyes for 4 seconds. So what I typically do is, let's say I have no stem, I'll stun an elite drone or I'll stun a grenadier, and then you're stunned for 4 seconds. It's basically like they're flashed, and during that time I can get an execution, which allows me to get my stem back because of execution shield, while also putting nearby enemies in fear because I have this card on. So Terror is a card I like a lot. It's not mandatory, but I do like it more as a 5th more than the other cards, because of the fact that because if you don't have Terror on, the ultimate's about 5 seconds, and then sometimes they turn around on you and you need more time to kill them. This allows you to have a longer time to kill enemies in fear. So I do like Terror a lot. Armored Shot deals 60% bleeding with ballistic weapons while you have stem. This can also be a good card depending on the map and the context. But basically, if Paduk has stem, bolt hawk, sniper, marksa, anything that's not an explosive weapon, I believe, just regular guns, lancer, they will bleed kill things or bleed down things depending on if there's execution rules. So I do like this card as well. I believed I used it on my Paduk Solo on the Mist. So you can see the benefits of bleeding, I don't know, a juvie from a distance, depending on the context, whatever you really need to bleed, a bastion, whatever. So this is a good card you could use, and you could use this for. This is probably a carryover card you could use for Horde as well, where you can bleed stuff from a distance. But we'll get into that later before I get ahead of myself. Intimidation. I used to swear by this card early on, but I don't really use it a whole lot anymore. But basically, killing an enemy with a critical hit applies 12 seconds of fear to enemies within 5 meters. So basically, if you get a headshot kill, the enemies near the enemy that got headshotted, they'll be in fear for 12 seconds. I don't really care for it, because if you do this, they typically, especially if it's after the safe room, the enemies will rush towards the LZ. So it's not really ideal, because you can't, like if you're sniping them, they're going to be out of range or out of sight, and typically, especially if it's elite drones, because they like to sprint towards the LZ if it's after the safe room or if it's a 1-act hive. So it's not really, I don't use it as much. I used to like it, but I don't like it that much anymore. It can be good, like on the barracks. I used it. There's a section of like 20 juvies before the safe room, and I was able to headshot one of them, which allowed all the juvies to kind of be under control, if you will. So it depends on the context on when it's good and when it's not. I could see it being useful in the barracks. I could see it being useful in the Warren, but you got to get that initial headshot. If you don't get that headshot, especially if it's juvies, then it can be dicey, because juvies always rush, like are aggressive enemies. They always push you. So intimidation can be useful to crowd control, like if it's in 20 juvies or whatever. So consecutive hits. I've used this a few times. Consecutive critical hits increase damage 25% each, with a maximum of additional 20% to 200% damage. There's marks. One of the instances I really remember was there's marks on the gatekeepers. So I was able to kill a Scion very quickly because of this card stacked with another card, and I'll give that in a second. But basically, if you're an accurate player that gets headshot or is good with marksa, it's mainly good with marksa, then you're going to really benefit from this card. You may be able to kill a Scion, and that's a gatekeeper Scion, in like 10 hits or something like that, because of the fact that the damage increases so substantially. But you just have to try. If you're not accurate with your headshot hits, this card is not going to be of use to you because you only get the slight increase in damage, and you won't be able to maximize the top end of this card. So it depends on who you are as a player if you want to use this card or not. Epic score boost, just speaks for itself. Increased team score in Horde, increase the time bonus in Escape. Lifeline, I don't really use anymore, but it's not a bad card. I don't know what you would, if we're talking about Escape, I don't know what you would swap it out for necessarily. But basically, nearby enemies in fear. Nearby enemies in fear. If your teammates get those kills, they will get stem because Paduk is going to get stem anyway from the execution shield. So this is really to help your teammates if you want to do that. But in my experience, the phase is strong enough to, the fact that your teammates, sorry, not your teammates, but the fact that the enemies are in fear, they won't charge you anyway. So I find that this card's not useless, but it's not as useful as others, but you can use it if you want to. It's not a bad card per se. So marks of damage, 60% extra damage and 30% active effects. Mine is only level 5. So this can stack well with the consecutive shot, and this is what I was talking about before. These two go really well together if you're using Marksa and you're very accurate. That way you can kill Scions, Bastions. Well, not so much Bastions, because that's much harder than Scions. Really whatever, honestly. If you can get consecutive headshots, these two will stack really well together. Powered Sprint, level 5, so picking up energy heals for 90%. It'll be 100% at level 6. I haven't done a whole lot of Horde testing with Paduk. But this card's similar to Kate's. If he's able to get executions and get the healing and what have you, this is a good card. But a lot of these with Paduk per se, it is dicey because you're dealing with enemies that aren't necessarily going to rush you. And the maps in Horde are so open, so being Paduk and Escape is a lot more dominant than it is in Horde, in my estimation, because unless you're like really good, honestly. But I'm getting off on a tangent. Powered Sprint can be really good if you need the healing just from the energy that the enemies drop. If your teammates are doing long range kills, then you can pick up that energy if you're getting lit up by an elite drone or something like that. But if you're running around in the Horde, you're really going to need this concussive round so you can stun the drone and get that execution. That way you can be, get your stim back and be 100% damage resistant at least at level 6. So acceleration, 30% extra damage at long range. These three, the consecutive shot, marks of mastery, and acceleration can stack really well together. So, like I was saying before, the consecutive shot, if you're accurate, this is good. Marks of mastery can be good in conjunction with consecutive shot, and if the target's over 15 meters away, those 3 cards, acceleration, marks of mastery, and consecutive shot, can go really well together for your, I would say, mainly Horde match. I don't think you'd run this stack and Escape because I don't see the value in it versus his other build that I'll go over in a second. But in Horde, though, the acceleration, marks of mastery, and consecutive shot can be really, really good together. That way you can do good damage at a distance. So National Proficiency, 30% increased damage and active effects. When I soloed the end with this class, I tried it for one of my attempts, but because of the fact I was only using it to enemies in fear, I was already doing double the damage anyway, and I didn't want to use the extra card slot, so I just got rid of it. You notice the difference. It is pretty obvious, but it's not worth substituting, in my estimation, for other cards. So rain down, 30% extra damage when above an enemy. So this can also be good. So visually speaking, so the Ice Queen, there's before the safe room, there's a time where you're shooting down at targets. The gatekeepers, there's times where you're shooting down at targets. You just have to figure out, you just have to know the map in advance if you want to use this. Because if you use this correctly, his sniper build can be consecutive shot, marks of mastery, rain down, and acceleration. Because you'll be doing a ton of damage if they're at a distance and you're above them. But you just have to know the map in advance and know that if that marks is available. Fearsome Aura. When I used to do surge runs, which I don't do anymore, it increases the radius of fear by 6 meters. So it is useful from that context because of the fact that if you want to put enemies in fear, it helps your teammates out, and the fear radius will extend if your teammates are a little bit further from you. So Nomad Armor is actually a card. If I know myself, I probably didn't respect it in the first video. I would have to review the first video, but because typically my logic is if I can't put 2 health cards on, or my old logic, I should say, if I can't put 2 health cards on, then I'm not going to put any health cards on. So I've updated my thinking because even with Anchor class, I would used to run Venom Resistance and Crazy Tough. Now that probably maybe because I've just gotten better as a player, I really only need the Crazy Tough, so I'm able to use Barrier Feedback instead of Venom Resistance. So same thing here, Nomad Armor, you definitely notice the difference if you having it versus not having it, because you're able to rush enemies that are a good bit away from you, a little bit more than if you didn't. So on my solo run on Venom Run, I used Nomad Armor instead of Concussive because I thought I needed the damage resistance more than I needed to stun enemies because there's only Grenadiers on that map anyway. So any stun would require 2 hits, and with Venom Run, there's just not enough time to do it. So I like Nomad Armor. Now on my recent solo on the Link, I did not use Nomad Armor. I went to my usual stack. So, but again, you do notice a difference within 15 meters of a target, and it allows you to be more aggressive with said target or targets. That way you can rush them, and then you can execute them using this card, and then phase will put the nearby enemies in fear. So it's just a cycle of fear that you keep putting enemies in. Precision Resistance, I haven't used this card at all, but it's the same as this card basically. You just get damage resistance from Sniper. Sniper marks. I'm not entirely sure if Torque Bow counts. I want to say it doesn't, but I know Sniper marks do count for precision resistance. Last but not least, Score Boost if you want to increase your team score in Horde and increase your time bonus in Escape. So that's it for Paduk. What I'm going to go over though is, so I'm going to give one example stack. I don't really, because this video is going to be so similar to the first one, I'm going to go over an example stack for Escape and an example stack for Horde. So what I'm running for Escape and what I ran in my solo run on the Link is Phase, Terror, Execution Sealed, Menace, and Concussive. So I could swap out Nomad Armor for Terror for Nomad Armor if I wanted to, but I've just gotten used to this play style, honestly, so I kind of just do it this way. So it's not bad if you want to run Nomad Armor. I have a buddy who swears by it, and he actually got me to use it, but I like Terror more, especially for the solo runs. Now, if it's team runs, I think Nomad Armor is superior. I don't think you need. I don't think 3 people need enemies in fear for 15 seconds. I don't think that's. I think that'd be more tedious than anything else because they'd be constantly running from your teammates, and I don't think 3 people need that type of defense per se. So, but yeah, phase, terror, execution shield, menace, and concussive is basically, if you see a Nomad solo run, this is probably what I'm running. Now, again, another option instead of terror, I'll just so you can visualize it, is Nomad armor. So if you're with a team, this is what I'd recommend: phase, Nomad armor, execution shield, menace, and concussive. So this is what I'd recommend for escape first. Now for Horde, now granted, you can play this exact same way for Horde if you really wanted to. If you're really good at the executions and the timing, if you can pull it off, knock yourself out. But I would assume people would rather play it safe for the most part. So I'll show a less like a safer build for Horde here in a second. So for Horde, what I'd run is consecutive shot. Not so much rain down. Acceleration. I'm missing that Marksa card. When you choose cards, they swap. They're end up in a different order. So these three definitely: consecutive shot, acceleration, Marksa mastery. Maybe Nomad armor. No, not Nomad armor. That's not good. So in case you want to get so you can do execution shield, and because of that, since you're going to get stem on master, I'm not sure how long you'd have it, but it is what it is. So this is an example. It's a weird one, but it's one you can try. If you want to do a sniper class and you don't want to run the marksman class, this is an option. I'm not saying this is necessarily the best option, but this is an option. Consecutive shot, acceleration, marksman mastery, execution shield, and armor shot. And the only reason I'm saying execution shield is because of the fact that I want to maybe do some bleeding on some of the waves. Now on master, it is very hard to keep your stem. It's almost impossible. But at least some of the time you'll have stem, and you'll be able to help bleed enemies to help your teammates. So this is an example you can do for Horde. I would definitely run these three. These two are really up to you, but these three I think would be really, really good if you're accurate with sniper, if you're accurate with Marksa. It's just a different way to play. For me, I pretty much only play one way when it comes down to this class. Phase, Terror, Execution Shield, Menace, and Nomad Armor is also another stack. What's missing? Voltok Stun. So it just really depends. Paduk has a lot of good cards, so it really depends on how you want to play as far as Nomad's concerned. So but that's pretty much it for this class. Next, either later today or tomorrow, I'm going to go over Anchor. It's a class I've been looking forward to talking about. But if you have questions about Nomad, please comment below, and I'll answer all of them as best I can. Thanks for listening, guys, and hopefully this helps you be a better Nomad. Take it easy, guys. You have a good one.